New Rochelle, New York.
Huh?
Nauru.
What about it?
Just artists in general. What were you seeing, and what kind of information did you
Well,
gather?
I had the privilege. I went to Mount Vernon High School, but my cousin Richard Dixon went to New Rochelle High School. Richard Dixon is Puba's cousin, Maxwell Dixon. We're on different sides. I think he's related on the father's side, I'm related on the mother's side, something like that. So me and Puba officially are not related, you know what I'm saying? But hanging out, I got to see Max and his cousin Todd, Doctor Who, way before the world did. Like, in the park, doing routines. Like they actually had a routine off the Abbott and Costello Who's on First.
Mm.
Like it was dope. They would do that and kill a party. Like, it would kill like a battle. Just like that was one of the things. So I talk about them early days running with Rich and my cousin Pete Rogers, and running with him, and all the early days, and then him getting the master of ceremony, and then excuse me, get a glass of water. Hold on. Sorry about that. I always keep
No
water
problem.
by the thing. I'm just coming out of I had surgery recently. I had a hernia in my stomach.
Oh,
I had surgery, so I'm just still recovering from that. But so Lord Jamal interview was very instrumental because he met Puma during the Brand Nubian days. I mean the Master Ceremony days, and ran with him. So he tells that whole story. So then Brand Nubians, and then Puma by himself, which
mm-hmm.
which set off another chapter, hip hop and fashion, because Puma actually, Tommy Hilfiger blew up from a name drop in a song from, and I found the interview and the research from Tommy Hilfiger and his brother, forget his brother's name, how they telling this,
Andy.
Andy, telling the story about Puma mentioning and how that happened. So that started a whole nother chapter again, hip hop and fashion. Um, you had Rough House Survivors.
Yep.
My cousin was part of a group. They were called the Invisible Men. They changed the name to the Invisies. They were on Henchman Entertainment. Did some stuff. They wrote one of the Salt and Pepper, one of the big Salt and Pepper records. They wrote the lyrics to that. So I wanted to mention people like them, and pay tribute to some of the new cats coming out. Puba's son, Stunner Gang, is dope. Like, he's in the section, the chapter "What's Next? Who's Next? We Got Next" or something like that.
Okay.
But he was dope, and what I liked about him, he's like his dad. The hood favorite, dude. But he got that swagger, but he's still, today. You know what I'm saying? Like he got, but you could tell that's his son. You know what I'm saying? He got that same, what Puma was then, he's that in the streets now. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I'm trying to think who else um I think I talk a little bit about Don Barron because he did come out with his album, a solo album, after Master Ceremony. Um, Vance Wright, used that was DJ and producer for Slick Rick, was actually living in New Rochelle, and Mount Vernon. He was back and forth. Before he talks about how he met Slick and all that stuff, and all that. He was from New Rochelle. Little Kim actually lived in New Rochelle
Mm.
from the ages of like 8 to like 12 or something. And
Okay.
when I heard this, I had to look this up because I didn't know. I thought, one of my, shout to my man Andre Songmaster. I think his last name. Everybody knows him as Songmaster. He actually passed. There was a 50th anniversary celebration in Lincoln Park in New Rochelle, and I was sitting there with him, and he was taking pictures of me with everybody, and I never got a chance to take a picture with him. And 2 weeks later, he died.
Mm.
He put something on his Facebook page about all the people from New Rochelle, and he mentioned the Little Kim thing, and I had to go Google that. You know what I'm saying? He was a wealth of information in the early days of hip hop and New Rochelle because he was connected to a lot of these people. So I wanted to shout him
Speak a little bit of Yonkers.
out. Yonkers is Yonkers calls himself the Lost Borough or the Sixth Borough. So with everything I do, I try to mix some history in there. So I learned this. In the 1800s, there was only one borough of New York City. It was called Manhattan. There was a referendum for Richmond County, Staten Island, Kings County, Queens County, Mount Vernon, and Yonkers in the 1800s. The other three, they got enough votes. Mount Vernon and Yonkers didn't get enough votes. So then there's four boroughs. What they did is they took part of Mount Vernon and part of Yonkers and created this new borough called the Bronx. So I got like all the history and the dates and all that stuff in there. So Mount Vernon and Yonkers, if the Bronx is the birthplace of hip hop, Mount Vernon, part of that is Mount Vernon and Yonkers. You know what I mean? So I talk about that. So I talk about, I saw a bunch of interviews. The internet is a beautiful thing. Case in point, I talked to Grand Poobah on the phone a few times, and we'll go back to Yonkers, but we never got time for the interview.
Mm.
But he was on Lord Jamal's podcast, so I was able to get everything I needed and just quote, give credit. Same thing with the Locks. I didn't really get a chance to sit down with them because it was just time wise and just couldn't get to everybody. But they had done a lot of podcasts, separate individuals. So I got Jada and Styles and stuff from this particular podcast. They're like the blue collar rappers. They had a chip on their shoulder because when record executives decided to start looking in Westchester, they went to Mount Vernon, right next, one town over from Yonkers, and New Rochelle, 2-3 towns over. So Have and Pooba and all of them are doing their thing, and the Yonkers is like, yo, what about us? Like, why y'all skipping over us? Um, After that thing I told you about the referendum and creating the Bronx, there was another referendum for the Yonkers to become the sixth borough, and there was even they were going to put the subway. They was going to extend the subway line straight into Getty Square, but the current Yonkers mayor at that time didn't want that, so it never happened. So they called themselves either the sixth borough or the lost borough. So they were like, yo, again, like Mount Vernon, hip hop has been here since hip hop's been here. People like JC from the Herculoids and Cool Herc. Um, he moved to Yonkers, and brought all of that with him. So there was a lot of early hip hop stuff going on in Yonkers. So, but they always had that chip on their shoulder because they felt. So the Locks were like really the first hip hop group signed. Like nobody really, really got a deal. There's a couple of underground records and stuff, and I have those listed, but nobody got a deal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Until the Locks, you know what I'm saying? That's well after Have and everybody else, you know what I'm saying, in Westchester. So, Yonkers, Yonkers is built different. I mean, I don't have to tell you, to quote Styles P, he said, you got artists like us, DMX, and Mary J. Do I have to tell you we're different? Like, Yonkers is
Right.
different. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
um, and there's a dude, an old school dude. His real name is Jerome Enders, but he went by the name Raw Rome, and he was a dope MC. He did a book called The Lost City of Yonkers, the Lost City of Hip Hop.
Mhm.
And he goes deep into like the beginning and what buildings everybody's from and what hood and connects it all together, the graffiti artists and all that. His book was sort of an inspiration kind of towards what I did for all of Westchester. So I didn't want to get too much into that because he already wrote that book. So I just shared his book. Yeah, I just shared his book.
Right. Could you talk a little bit? You got a section in here as well, saluting the DJs. From your point of view, who was the first DJ from 914?
I don't know who the first official DJ from 914, but I do celebrate DJ Mark C and the legendary Collins brothers. I think in the early legends of hip hop. Um, Mark C is the one who coined the phrase "money earning Mount Vernon" back in like '79, and I show you can see flyers and stuff. They were legendary. They were doing parties. It was actually at a party in 78, 79 at like Harlem Prep. They were there with DJ AJ. Grant was Theodore's brothers, the L brothers, um, Love Bug Starsky, the Collins brothers, and so they had anybody who knew the Collins brothers. They had a legendary monster sound system. If they turned on their sound system, nobody else could rock. So Busy B was the actual MC for the L brothers, I believe. So the Collins brothers turned on their system, pissed everybody off. So when they turned the system off, Busy B's like, yo, I don't know where y'all think y'all at. This is money making Manhattan, not still learning Mount Vernon. So Mark's like, yo, we can't let that ride. And he's sitting there for a while and he's like for 5, 10 minutes trying to figure out. So they threw their system back on. He was like, yo, he said money making Manhattan. Money, oh no, we not still learning, we money earning Mount Vernon. He said that in 79. And then he had a group of girls that used to hang out. So they ran around the party. Money earning Mount Vernon, Collins Brothers number one. Money earning Mount Vernon, Collins Brothers number one. So then they would go do parties in Philly and Jersey and Connecticut. And these girls would be in the parties and they would be running around money earning Mount Vernon, Collins Brothers number one. So they are definitely, I wanted to show like we had thorough DJs even back then when all those other legends, we had DJs in that too. They may not be the first, but they are definitely one of the early ones that are. And then you had the Smith brothers. I don't know much about them from White Plains. And Mark Collins says they might have been even more thorough than them. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big compliment coming from him.
Right. You also cover graffiti in this book as well.
There was a legendary group when I came back out here for high school, TGF, the Graffiti Force. And two of his members, Leroy Mack, LM444, and Alex Farrow, Rembrandt. His tag was REM 311. When he decided to use that name, Rembrandt would have been dead. The artist Rembrandt would have been dead 311 years. So that's what his. They were known through the five boroughs, respected like by all the graffiti artists, not just in Westchester. So I definitely wanted to show that there was early hip graffiti in Westchester, and I actually was in the. You know how you're a member, but you're not one of the official members, but you're still down with them. That was me, and I got my name AJ Rok from them. There was a guy in my commercial art class in high school. His name was AK Rock, ROCK. He named me AJ Rock, and so it was AJ ROCK. Then there was this other dude who I interview in the book. His name was Daryl Rhodes. His real name was DEROL, but his graffiti name was DEROC, Derrock. It's the first time I seen the word rock spelled without both the C and the K.
Mm,
But you can't bite, right? So
right.
his was C, so I dropped the C in 83 for originality. Mine became ROK. That was one of my rhymes. So I was like, I would say that I dropped the C in 8. So between the two of them is how I got the name AJ Rok, and I lived on 11th Avenue, and again 4th Street, where you got 4th Street Playground, and when you cross the street, it turns into 241st. So that was my AJ Rok 241. That was my graffiti tag. So I basically walked through that whole thing and how I got my name, and I celebrate them, and I interviewed Daryl a little bit, and to respect the graffiti. You go to some graffiti sites, I think like 135th something. It's in the book. The actual site and everything. He's in there. Those two are in there.
Very dope. Now, not only did 914 produce artists and graffiti artists, DJs, you also had some top hip hop execs come out of there, right?
Yeah. So this is funny. I was like, yo, somebody asked me why Puff's not on the cover. First, it was artists and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because that's originally what it was. And he's not really an MC. And there were stories and everything, but I could not mention him because he empowered and employed so many people from Westchester. You know what I'm saying? So I found a place for him in that, the hip hop executives. Then you had the Rough Riders who were Wadi and the sister Siobhan, who actually early on grew up in the building that Kool Herc lived in the early days of hip hop. I think a floor or two below or above Herc. So they got all that early stuff they were getting, right there in the building. So that's how they moved to Mount Vernon. The brothers did that. I don't know about Siobhan. And then they started Rough Riders, and he talks about how they met with Hev, and Heavy D gave Wah some of the best advice. He was like, "Yo, just get you a dope rapper and put out, you need one hot rapper, and you put out some dope music behind him and build your thing." And basically, that's what they did with DMX. So he credits Heavy. So I got them in there. I'm sure there are others. I just can't remember the names of some of the others, but those. So I got a little section on hip hop executives. Yeah.
Also, some designers came out of 914. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, well, you had the Shabazz brothers. You had yeah, I got it was so much there's so much in my head that I can't even think of everything right now. I actually got to go to the table of contents.
Groovy
Um,
Lou.
um, Groovy Lou got his start working with Hev, running around with Hev. I think, and he tells the story, so I guess it's okay because he's told the story. I guess he was running around with them, selling weed to the rappers, like he would run with Puffin, and something I don't know how it came about, but he eventually he ended up styling some of the artists, and he becomes the main stylist for Bad Boy. And then you have what's the name that worked under him? Mike B, who's considered the Prince of Fashion. He's from Greenberg. He actually came up under Groovy Lou. Then you had Misa, who was she was like a stylist or whatever for Little Kim and so many other people. She's from Mount Vernon. You have Chris Latimer, who now owns the AACA, the African American Collegiate Alliance. But back then he worked for them. He was responsible for you seeing it on Martin in the videos on Def Comedy Jam. He was responsible for that. I think the brand went under and he officially relaunched it and brought it. You know what I'm saying? So he's from White Plains. So he's in there. Brother Arthur. A lot of people know. First off, he is the head of Mosque Number 7 in Harlem. But he also was an old school. He was a rapper with Zulu Nation under the name Kid Dust, and he used to host all the Zulu anniversaries and stuff, and got records and went on tour with Bambaataa and all of them in the '80s. As in the Nation of Islam, he was doing security. He was doing security for Carl Kanai, and they would go through like some hip hop event or whatever, some big conference or something, and he's leading the way, and people like Method Man and all these people, oh, what's up, brother? They all coming up to speak. Carl Kanai's like, yo, how you know all these people? He's like, oh yeah, my hip hop, blah blah blah. He said, why you never came to me for a job? He said, you hired me for security. I'm not here to peddle a job. So he was like, yo, you think about working for me? A month later, he was handling the whole East Coast for Carl Kanai. So a lot of people that you've seen and the rappers that you've seen for Carl Kanai, that was all him. And he's from Mount Vernon. You know what I'm saying? So he's one of and a couple other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Very dope.
Shout out to Grind 14. They do a lot of sweats